Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Knocked Conscious. Today I had the pleasure of speaking with Amy Bohn of PERK. Actually, I had this conversation with her last Thursday, July 11th, and there was a bill, AB 1955, it was on Governor Newsom's desk, about banning consent or even information or sharing of information to parents. It was an atrocious bill, and what's interesting is by the time I was even able to cut and share this today, 1 week later, the bill was already signed into law on Monday, the 15th of July. So here's the conversation. My heart is breaking and really hurts for the parents in California. But the conversation from Amy was vitally important. Please share her information. She was a great conversation and she has so much information and she wants to help the children. Please help her if you can. Please listen to this conversation. It was such an amazing conversation. Here it is. I hope you enjoy it.
What is PERK? First of all, Amy Bohn
Yes, well done.
of PERK.
Yes.
We're on Knocked Conscious. We're here to open up the consciousness of people, expose them to some shenanigans afoot.
All right. Yes.
I understand you protect children with PERK.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
Yes. So we're protection of the educational rights of kids. We protect children. We protect parental rights. And then part of our core mission is also protecting medical freedom, health freedom, your ability to choose what goes in your body or not, everything. So
beautiful.
Yeah, and constitutional rights, which are all connected to parental rights and children's issues too.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's dive into AB 1955 first, before
great.
we forget.
Yes.
So
yes.
I understand there's a bill in California?
Yes. So California, as people hopefully are consciously aware, is always the ground zero for huge issues. Okay, whenever we see these things happening in California, they're often going to be in another state as well.
It's a regulatory of some sort of
right.
government regulatory piece coming in and doing something.
And in this instance, this is one of the most atrocious bills that undermines parental rights. And what AB 1955 does is it's a bill that specifically prohibits parental notification at schools. I know, it's so bad, related to a child's gender identity, gender expression, sexuality, anything related to that, name change, anything in that space. So this bill prohibits, it bans parental notification related to that. So it also creates a secret file.
So basically,
on
what
parents.
that, if
Yes.
by that, let's unfold what a
Yes.
ban on the protection of
Sure.
unfolding, like it's like triple negative.
Right.
So a ban, so basically we'll tell you that there is a ban that the parents
are not made aware
So
of any of these kinds of, they're not notified, they're not informed, they're not giving consent, they have no idea, they're completely blocked from having any knowledge of what may be going on with their child in this space of gender identity.
So, for example, Johnny walks out the door,
Yes.
got his ball cap on, his shirt, whatever. He comes back in a dress the afternoon, the same day. Nothing, no call to the parents, nothing. It's Johnny's now Julie or something, for example. I know that's a really accelerated grooming, obviously in one day, but.
So that is an example of what we're talking about. It's so much more serious because these children also can be given referral services from the school to outside third parties, such as Planned Parenthood, where they can actually have treatments, have gender
affirming care.
Transitioning the minors with treatments at these types of facilities.
Yes.
So all of that would be blocked from parents' knowledge. They would have no idea this is happening. And then also the problem is too, it creates a culture at school that is harmful to the parent-child relationship because it promotes secrecy.
Right.
It also harms the parent-teacher relationship, which is supposed to have a trusting, really good relationship, as well as the parent-teacher relationship. So all three of those really important areas that are essential for a child's well-being and development is impacted and harmed based on this type of horrible policy and bill that they're introducing. So right now, the bill is on the governor's desk, and we're hoping that he would veto the bill, but I don't think it will. Yes, so it passed. It passed through, the different steps to become a law.
Yeah.
But the thing that people don't know about is they rushed it through in a kind of a tricky process, a deceptive process called a gut and amend. And essentially the language of the bill that started in the first house of the legislative body was not what we're seeing at the
Right. It
governor's
was
desk.
amended before it even got there, but it already passed this part, so they don't have to go back to recertify that part?
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Right. They can
Or re-vote on it.
But they didn't. So they have the
How is that
option
even
to.
That's not even legal.
Exactly. So what we're seeing on the governor's desk, many of the legislators that passed it in the first house, they didn't pass this same bill.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
And I would guess
Yeah.
that some of them are even now speaking out, going, this isn't the one I signed off on, because they have to worry about their constituents as well anyway.
Right. Well, you would hope that would be the case, but unfortunately, I think
It's California.
let me tell you what I think is really happening.
Yeah.
I think that there are more legislators, Democrats, Republicans, of all party backgrounds that don't like these kinds of policies. I think some of them are being quiet about it because they're towing the party line and they're not necessarily being true to their principles. They have children,
Right.
Democrat, Republican,
Yeah.
independent.
We all have families.
They have,
doesn't it?
they have kids and they want to be able to protect their children. So I think some of them are quiet, but don't like this. And then there have been one or two, we've been grateful for them actually speaking loud and directly about it. Assemblymember Bill Asaley, he's been very outspoken for parental rights and actually tried to pass a bill last year that was in favor of protecting parental notification. So, but the thing I was going to say is when it passed the first house, not like this, different language, they then did a gut and amend. So basically changed the wording of the bill,
Exactly.
right?
Gut and amend makes total sense.
Gut and amend, but it didn't go back to the
Right,
House
to get re-voted on, right?
reread and
Right.
to re-vote it
And
on.
that's generally that's the process.
Exactly. So they rushed it through, but I'm going to tell you why I think they did this. There has been a grassroots, I would say, a consciousness, to use your word.
Yeah.
Parents have been really rising up at the
Awareness.
grassroots level to stop this kind of thing from happening. School districts have come out with parental notification policies that are in favor of informing parents about everything. And frankly, that's our stance is, to be honest with you, parents should be know about everything.
Everything.
This isn't just about gender. Yeah. This is about how is your child's well-being on every aspect of their life. We should, it should be, a parent should know about everything and be informed about it. Parents typically in California, they have to know and give permission for their kid to have sunscreen
tattoo,
on, right?
Or in some cases, right?
Yeah, I think you have to be 18 to have a tattoo. You have to be an adult. But I think what's happening is there's this grassroots, freedom and awareness happening with parents. And there was a ballot initiative called Protect Kids Act that had really been rallying on this issue to put into California law via the ballot, a vote from the people, that parental notification would be protected and bypassing the legislative process. But I think that awareness that's been growing, combined with something else that happened just a couple of months ago, the Attorney General of California, under oath, mind you, under oath,
So did Fauci, but
yeah. There you go. Under oath, he actually said, Attorney General Bonta said that school boards are not required to follow his school secrecy policies. Now, under oath, the reason why that's significant is because I think it showed all of those legislators and the Attorney General and the governor that they can't get around the law. So what did they do? They tried to make a new law. Do you see?
Yeah.
And that law would do the opposite of what all the parents have been trying to protect, which would remove parental notification.
It's like a censorship. It's almost a censorship from the parents. I mean, we're fine. We're seeing 1984 just all the way down, right?
Oh my gosh,
all
yes.
the way down. So,
actually, I'm speaking tomorrow, and my class is titled, my breakout session is titled, 1984, how California basically is like 1984, but what PERK did to help stop that from taking hold in the state. So, so that's AB1955. It's terrible.
It's awful.
Terrible.
That's not even terrible. It's just atrocious.
Awful.
It's evil. It's just pure evil.
Yeah.
It's like it's funny. I used to say pure evil. I don't say pure evil anymore. I say raw evil.
Raw evil.
Because like pure has a purity to it, and there's nothing pure about the evil.
Right.
It's just a raw evil. It's not. It's just.
It is.
unharnessed.
Anytime you're harming the family unit like this, I think that that's so dangerous to undermine that sacred relationship between parents and their children. That nothing should come between a parent and their child, and a parent knows best. Moms and dads and those guardians, loving grandparents, they know what's best. And this is, I think, one thing that needs to be clarified is this is not a transphobic issue. That
Certainly
people,
not. The protection of children. Like, I love how people take protection of children and then just glum it onto a label of it's this one issue.
Right. It's not. That's just a stigma and a distraction
Absolutely.
from the real issue, which is we're
piece.
saying parents should be notified about everything. You pick any conversation, any topic, any category. We think parents should be notified about all of them, right? So that doesn't, I just think that they're so out of touch with a bill like this, but it exploits children.
And it makes you wonder, is it out of touch, or is it this thought process? Because there's been attack on the family for decades, right? I mean, we talk about just the welfare state on helping single parents initially, allowing single parenthood to almost exponentially skyrocket, right? It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think it is systemic where, children are at school and they're being indoctrinated with so many things, so many values and things that are not consistent with their home values, but they're being pushed on kids, while also this whole idea that you can't trust your mom and dad, you can't talk to your mom and dad are the bad guy, right? And I think that that has been, increasing definitely because I think there's a bigger agenda at hand to separate children from their parents.
And one of the weird that you mentioned that the hiding thing. The one thing I just mentioned that was really interesting was, if I may, here you go. The one thing I found interesting is hiding from the parents. Is the children are hiding from their parents, but they're more than exposing themselves. They're exposing their entire life. They don't even understand what privacy is, yet they're keeping it from the parents, which is the one group that you need
the love and the support of.
It doesn't even make it. It's so counterproductive.
It's so counterproductive. I agree with you. And the thing is, I have 3 children. Okay, I have currently my kids are junior high, high school, and a college age son. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that those teenage years are so difficult for any kid, and any parent, just not because, I have amazing children, but it's more so that they're trying to figure out who they are.
And you're trying to help them
and we're trying
in your
to help
way.
them and
you've got
them.
your biases. You never know, right? There's always that.
But they're trying to figure out their identity. They're trying to figure out, how they fit in the world. They're trying to figure out how they feel insecure about all kinds of things, and there's just challenges that happen with friends. So that entire age of life needs parental love and support and nurturing. And so to interfere with that with such a terrible kind of policy like this is so detrimental to children. And the thing about it too is is really the kids need their parents, So if they're going through something, again, pick a topic, pick anything, even outside of kind of, the gender identity thing. The kids need their parents, and they're better off having their parents involved to support and love them.
I did think about one other thing.
Yes.
It's coming off as Spike Cohen had a conversation. He was talking about the human respect, and he was talking about the family who had their child taken from them.
I didn't
know. So there's a family.
Catch me up.
Husband and wife, 2 children, and one of the children woke up and had like a rash or some kind of thing. It turned out ultimately to be an autoimmune thing, but the first doctor said it was abuse.
Where was this? Which one was this?
I forget what state that is. I can clarify.
Right. Could be anywhere.
It could be anywhere actually, but Spike works with them with You Are the Power, and what it was they took the child away.
That's just horrific.
Then they separated. The parents couldn't even talk to each other.
Oh my gosh.
So you might want to have a conversation with it. But then he finds out, it's like, because they saw the child as a $sign from the beginning, because if you call it abuse and then it goes to the next stage, they get funded for that.
The next so horrible.
And I see that, and it is, in this case, it is the trans-specific case because that involves cost of hormone therapy and surgery and treatments and all those other things. So I'm wondering if that's really the driving factor of all this, not the ideology, because we use our compassion against us.
They
use our compassion. Don't you want to help children? Well, this would help children. Affirming care, gender affirming. What you are, we have to we have to help children be confident in who they are as they are.
Right.
Now they can still be who, as an adult, they can be
Right.
whoever they are, but they're still children. And under that
They're
protection
minors, yes.
of parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so sad to hear of that story. I'm not surprised. And when it comes to dollar signs, you are right that oftentimes there's a bigger industry that is pushing policy, whether it's vaccine policy or what you're talking about, like with this AB1955 and treatments and stuff related to gender things. But the issue is anytime you have lots of money involved, there's a tendency for that to corrupt and to really exploit a group, right? We saw that happen with the COVID vaccine, right? Like PERK is extremely involved in that kind of stuff too with medical freedom.
Yeah, did you do that with how you registered deaths as COVID deaths versus, what was that one comedy thing? He's like falling out of the sky, he was skydiving,
oh my gosh,
he
parachuted and he died of COVID, right? It was Rob Schneider.
Yeah, Rob Schneider, it was hilarious.
That was so funny.
That was the funniest, it was everyone
hilarious,
just
right?
Hilarious.
But you're right, that's a good example of how they were misreporting COVID deaths because they were trying to bloat the numbers and they were trying to manipulate fear, in the minds of people on what was going on during that time, and in order to, to control them and force mandates, right? Yeah. Our involvement in California, specifically during the time of COVID, was so significant. We actually sued different schools. We still have several lawsuits in play. We have about 9 happening right now. We filed a lawsuit against the city of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles County, San Diego, and our lawsuits actually pushed back against those mandates on everybody. So much to the point that we won. So we won some of the school suits. San Diego had to drop their mandate.
Oh, so this is a mandate thing, right? Is this for mandating vaccines for children? Is that what I would guess?
Both. Mandating vaccines for children, mandating vaccines on all of the healthcare workers, first responders. Yeah. Because really what they did is they tried to mandate the COVID shot on everybody and tried to have a vaccine passport to go along with it, plus proof of vaccination. And then at one point in 2022 in California, we were heavily involved in this as well. We were one of the organizations leading a lot of the work against these bad bills that would have removed funding from the law enforcement and give it to the health department related to all the stuff, like if they didn't follow the health orders, which are not laws and they can't force them, right? So, I mean, and censorship. Censorship has been a huge thing also happening where these legislators have tried to take away religious rights, speech, mandate all kinds of crazy stuff, which really the issue with that is it removes our bodily sovereignty and autonomy. If we are not free to choose what goes in our own body, we are not free.
Yeah, if we're all compelled speech is the other one. It's like, I remember Jordan Peterson back in the day, the C-12 bill in Canada or whatever, it's about mandatory calling someone how they wish to be called.
Right.
That just sounds counterproductive because there's no fixed way in knowing how you want to be called today or tomorrow.
Right.
Now, as a social contract between two people, I would I know you, Amy, and I mispronounced your name, and you corrected me.
I corrected you.
And this is a social contract, and now I'm going to use bond because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But if you know what I mean? But that's almost a closure of that loop is that there has to be a feedback. And without that feedback to show how detrimental, authoritative, and whatever it is, then it's impossible to correct almost in a way.
Right, and I think there's a difference between personal relationships where you're in having respectful conversation and dialogue and human connection than systemically or at these institutional levels forcing some type of form of speech or censoring speech or that's the difference. We're not talking about just respecting each other.
Absolutely.
We're talking about forcing parents and children and people into a certain way while punishing them, coercing them, penalizing them if they don't comply with that way. Right.
And that's so anti-small L libertarian. It's like, what happened to pursuit of happiness is my pursuit. Doesn't impede on yours. It's not that difficult to get along, right?
Right.
You know, it's funny because going back to just the spike conversation, just because it hadn't have a child involved, maybe you should speak with him because he does a lot of great work.
So sad.
It is the most saddening story, but like. Just speaking of it, it's like hearing that, you know, it's crazy stuff. So
well,
sorry.
I was going to say, you know, and the thing too, I don't think people realize how much they actually can do to make a difference on any of these things we're talking about. You know, we have helped people take action via these very simple, you know, campaigns where we draft a letter for them. They hit like a quick click button and it sends a letter to the governor or the legislators or the school board. And we've been able to send, I think it's been over 3 million actions just in like the past 2 years on all these kinds of issues. And that magnitude of the people responding, meaning we the people, and those people are taking action and sending tweets and all that, at that level, really makes a difference because one voice matters. But when you take that one voice synergistically with millions of, you know, actions going to all of these people who are making these policies, all of a sudden they say, oh, wait a second, it doesn't look like the people really support this or that. And I think it's just essential for people to say something, you know, whatever influence they have.
It really, and I've always come from that compassion side. It's like, the way they approach it, they get us by our heartstrings. Because like, don't you want to help? Don't you want to be? And you're like, I want. So I guess, but you're telling me that's the way. That doesn't mean that's the way just because you want the compassion. Doesn't mean that's the way to get to the compassion.
Yeah, you're right. The compassion component, that is what they did, especially during the COVID lockdown era, where the
Grandma, don't kill grandma.
Yeah, the burden of harming your grandparents was put on our children.
Yes.
Now, we didn't put that on our children personally, but
the state or whatever, the overall
the health department,
group,
the messaging was, you're going to kill grandma and grandpa if you don't comply with this thing or that thing. And so you're right, they used people's compassion and the good nature of human beings to want to care about, you know, your family and your friends and your children and your parents and your grandparents, and manipulated it. Right? Like you have to do this so that, right? And at what point in history have we ever put the burden of the elderly on our children? Like I'm talking about
We've
kids.
always We've always been top down. It's always top down.
We are supposed to be protecting our young ones, you know, our kids and that generation rather than the, and now I'm not saying we shouldn't be sensitive to and compassionate to,
but compassion, there's the tough love aspect of compassion too, right? It's like, look, you made a mistake.
Yes.
A mistake has a consequence. You don't get out of this free. There's going to be a cost, whatever that cost is. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay that cost and move forward.
Right.
And that's how we move forward. We never get there, you know what I mean? We kind of jump these we're skip steppers.
We're skip steppers, So, I mean, with all that being said, you know, PERK is just doing phenomenal things in California. We have an amazing staff and team. We have volunteers. We have great partnerships and collaborations with other organizations. And we're working together to make a difference on all these issues. And like I said, we filed lawsuits. We do a lot of advocacy work where we teach other people how to do what we do. So everybody can do it. We are utilizing awareness and education on any of these, like we talked about AB1955, how many people know what's really happening with that? That's a kind of an educational awareness component.
I didn't know there was a ban. There is a literal ban from not tell parents. A ban from telling parents.
Think of it like a gag order, you know?
For your family.
For your,
I can't even, it doesn't even register in my head. Like,
Isn't that, like, it doesn't register because it's so opposite of what is really good for a child, right? Anybody with a brain can, you know, lean into that a child needs their parents, right? And vice versa. Parents are there to raise their children and they have a right to do that. That's a fundamental right that they have that's constitutionally protected. So, I think people, I would say this too, what happens in California impacts the entire country.
It does.
Right?
And I think what happened in California, I think what actually woke the parents up in general, if I may, was actually that FBI attack, that letter from Garland, that email from Garland calling the parents terrorists at the teacher stuff. I think it's that, I think it was that event, because it had to break before. California kind of just keep holding on, and you needed to snap somewhere. And that was really one of those events I thought was a snapping event for us to be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a total Keanu Reeves
when
Matrix
was that?
whoa.
Was that 20,
Maybe, 20, into 22, 21, 22.
You're right.
Where Garland drafted that note. It was
Right.
in Virginia, so where they thrown out those people calling terrorists.
Okay, right.
Potential terrorists.
Right, and you know what's crazy is that actually happened in California in 2019 when PERK was formed.
See, that's the
precursor.
canary in the coal mine
Absolutely.
of that.
Absolutely.
Just like Sweden is the head, leads us, California leads the progressive.
Yes, and they did that to parents who were going up to the Capitol in Sacramento by the thousands, and they were just advocating for their kids who had medical exemptions to vaccines to be able to keep those medical exemptions with their, doctor-patient relationships and all that. And they literally, I'm going to tell you, I was there up at the Capitol, and I saw the peaceful protests, the peaceful parents, the great dialogue,
the gathering of people for a common cause.
Exactly, but the media and so a couple of the legislators flipped it on purpose, gaslit the parents, and the message was those parents were really terrorists. What? This is insane. Like, it's like black is white and white is black. Everything's upside down on what reality really is.
Right.
And so that was another, that's when it started.
Yeah.
There it is. The messaging.
That would be
California.
And that would be the national. And so you had a once again a canary in the coal mine event, and then it just springs, and it does tend to do that. Right? So on that. So let's talk about that.
Okay,
so,
tell me.
Once again, Amy Bohn, thank you so much for joining us on Knocked Conscious.
Okay.
I at _infinite zeal. Joel Elwood is a friend of mine. He actually put this on Twitter. California bill to curb sex child trafficking declared unfair to LGBTQ. Tell me about that. What are your thoughts on that crazy headline?
Okay, so first, some of my thoughts are, number one, to conflate anything with child sex trafficking, any of that space, as not beneficial to another group or harmful to another group. I'm sorry, but we're talking about sex trafficking of minors and children, right? So that in and of itself is so egregious and harmful and horrific that every single group of people and every single legislator, policymaker, you name it, should be aligned in principle with protecting children from being sex trafficked. Right?
Regardless of a label that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it'd be like saying Democrats are not protected. That hurts Democrats that sex trafficking is illegal.
It's absolutely, it's outrageous. So we actually know the senator that brought forward this good legislation last year and this year. And what the legislation is supposed to do is it's essentially supposed to go after the perpetrators that are trying to sell children sex trafficking, right? So how is that related to LGBTQ?
Right.
And I don't get that. And to be honest with you, I really think that that message is not accurate. I have a lot of...
It's intentionally misleading, right?
Intentionally misleading. We have several groups that we work with, Gays Against Groomers, the Gen Spec. There's some fantastic groups out there who are LGBTQ, and they do not support the harm that is happening to children. They do not. They are not for it. They do not stand alongside these policies. They are speaking out against it. If you've seen Gays Against Groomers,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere,
television,
and they grew as a grassroots organization over the course of 18 months to millions. That is a symbol and a sign that group of people are just as much aligned with everybody on this issue to protect children. So I think that headline is wrong. Yeah. I really do.
I think it's misleading to your point.
I think it's misleading.
I think they're just conflating it just so that they can keep sex trafficking somehow.
Yeah.
It's because there is a money aspect behind that drives that too.
Right.
We talk about the border crisis and all that. So
and we have to protect children, and if that bill is a good bill, to protect children,
and
that's
to your point, the whole breadth of things. I'm 49 years old. I had a vasectomy at 34. I don't have children. And here I am talking about caring.
Yes.
From a protect, this just understands that society and humanity must go on, and it is through the children. When I look into a child's eyes and I just watch, there's this kid walking around, Scott or something, I think, with his mom, and he's getting people like yogurts and getting waters, and he's like 14, and I'm like, I'm gonna get him on the podcast because I just want him I want him to like, because it's so great. Watching that and encouraging that and not discouraging, not pushing, and not telling you you're wrong for feeling that way or whatever, but not grooming that other side of it.
It's manipulating and you know what, you're right. Our children, all of our children, they're the future. You know, what is the legacy we are giving to them from, you know, the aspect of our country and our rights and our freedom? It is our responsibility to protect the children. It doesn't matter whether you have children or not. It's your responsibility to help protect the children too.
And that's what people don't understand. It's like the people who go dink lifestyle or whatever, and they're like,
I'm grateful that you're
free
doing
or whatever. It's like, no, you still have to, if you see a child in distress, you are responsible, because children just aren't yet. They're just not yet.
So. Absolutely. Well, I love that you're supportive of this, that you're there, you know, you want to protect kids as well.
I admire your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amy Bohn, once again.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Not Conscious family.
Thank you
I
very
hope we
much.
can talk again, and we'll have something. Hopefully we can get some maybe collaborative people with some gays from Groomer or something. We can work a group.
Let's have a conversation.
I love that.
Yeah, I've got good friends there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amy Bohn, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks so much.
1, 2, 3, 4. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say good night, sweetheart.